Have you talked to Lisa or no?
Wait a minute. It goes square.
That's right. Baruch Hashem. Baruch haba. Welcome.
We need that mirror. It was hard to see it.
Well, at least we got it done. Welcome to our advanced studies here at Congregation Mashiach Yisrael. My name is Scott Siskin, and tonight we are studying our beloved Tanya. In Book 1 of Tanya, Lakutei Amarim, Sefer Shel Beinani, we're at chapter 16. Oh, we don't need that just yet. Chapters 16 and 17 are going to end our section of the war between the souls. So we're kind of winding down and at the same point winding up to our next section, which is all about this hidden love, the hidden love that exists within the heart of every Jew. With that as a brief introduction, who would like to open us with prayer and a blessing?
I'll open us in prayer. Thank you for the opportunity to study your word, to escape the world, set it aside, and come to you to learn, to understand, to know, to fill us to overflowing with your goodness and your mercy and your grace. Help us to have wisdom and knowledge and understanding, to understand what we're learning, to love it and let it change our lives. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen.
To fill us. That sounds like it's rooted in the word for prayer.
To fill Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
So, in chapter 16, we're going to be covering the concept of, we're diving deeper into the concept of the Beinani, honing in on this concept of the war between the souls. What does it really look like for most people? Again, we learned a very, very important principle last week, or possibly it was the week before. I'm pretty sure it was last week, though. Yep. 2 weeks ago in chapter 14, we learned this very important principle that anybody can become a Beinani, right? It's possible for humans to be able to exercise their mind and to use it to control their heart. If your heart controls your mind, what are you called? That's a Rasha, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone whose passions control them.
Right.
But if you can use your intellect to control your passions and use them for a godly purpose, you're a Beinani, right? Just as a little bit of, let's touch first base and swing around the corner here. What is the difference between a tzaddik, a Beinani, and a Rasha?
A tzaddik has mastered his evil inclination and lifted it to be light.
Right. He's got two godly souls functioning now.
Mm-hmm.
So he has mastered not only his garments, his thoughts and his speech and his actions, but also his soul powers, right? His intellect and his emotion.
You're referring to the 10
attributes, right? Chochma, bina, da'at, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Chesed, gevurah, teferet, loving kindness, severity, and compassion. Netzach, hod, yesod, that's endurance, humility, bonding, and finally malchut, which is kingship or sovereignty or dignity. So the tzaddik has done all that. The tzaddik has mastered all of this intellect, all of this emotion, metaphysically, practically, he's got it down. How does the Beinani differ from this paradigm prototype?
He's still working on it.
How is he still working on it? What has he mastered? What has he not? What has he not?
He has not mastered his
soul powers.
Soul powers.
But
he
mastered
is
his evil inclination.
right.
To the
He's warring with it every day, but
Right,
he's mastering it most of the time.
he's working on it, right?
It's a work in progress.
So the Beinani has mastered his garments, and he has not yet begun to master his soul powers at all. His intellect, he still understands things that aren't perfect love of God. His emotions, he still craves and is passionate about things that he probably shouldn't be passionate for. However, he toes the line. He doesn't sin, not in his thoughts, not in his words, not in his actions. What about a Rasha?
Just a master.
Rasha's mastered neither, right? He still has the intellect and the soul powers. His intellect and his emotion are still dominated by the animal soul. He understands animalistic things. He feels animalistic urges, and he doesn't toe the line, right? He does actually sin in his thoughts, in his words, or in his actions to some extent, right? And remember, we had our chart where we saw the different levels of a tzaddik and the different levels of a Rasha. Last week in chapter 15, we discussed the different levels of a Beinani. Do we remember that at all?
Yeah.
What was it like?
The one who serves God and the one who does not serve God.
Right, and that was from that special verse in Malachi chapter 3, verse 18.
discern between the one who serves God and the one who doesn't.
Right. And these are two different levels of a Beinoni. One who is fighting the fight every day. He has passions and he conquers them, right? He has passions and he doesn't act on them. Or he acts on the godly only. Whereas the other type of Beinoni is more of a bookworm, valedictorian type, right? He doesn't have this crazy passion to go out to God only knows where and do God only knows what. I mean, as such, he battles so much less. So much less. We discussed that God really appreciates the service of the one who battles more because it's so much harder, right? And it's one of the sweetest services that we can do for God. Again, anybody can do this. Anybody can use their mind to control their heart. Going just a level deeper into that, the title from our handy-dandy map of Tanya for chapter 16 is the intellectual appreciation of God. And again, in this section, we're kind of answering questions that we brought up in chapter 1. In chapter 17, we're going to closely look at the verse that started all of this. This thing is very near to you in your mouth and your heart that you should do it. We're going to tackle that real hard in 17, but right now we're looking at the intellectual appreciation of God. Our little introduction says, the general principle regarding the Beinoni, the intermediate, is that though he doesn't feel actual fear and love of God, he develops an intellectual appreciation for God through meditation. Right? It's pretty much exactly what we've been saying. We're just going to take another look at it a little bit more closely and see how that turns out practically. With that as our introduction, who would like to begin reading? I could if anybody does. Go for it. Go? Well, no, I'll go for it. You can munch. Chapter 16. This, then, is the important principle regarding the divine service for the Beinoni. And as Rabbi Gordon said, if the Alter Rebbe says this is a very important principle, you best believe it's very important. The divine service of the Beinoni. The essential thing is to govern and rule the nature that is in the left ventricle of the heart. We talked about that a couple chapters before. What do we mean left ventricle?
The one with the blood, the animal.
Right. So. The one with more blood. This is the seat and the headquarters of the animal soul, whereas the headquarters of the godly soul is in the brain, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the Beinoni's job, chief essential thing, is to govern that animal soul, right? You want to put a harness on it and control it, and not the other way around. That is to say, to rule the heart by means of meditation in the mind on the greatness of the Ein Sof Yisbarach. And this is what we said before. This is the most powerful tool of the Beinoni. What is the secret weapon of the Beinoni? Mind over matter, right? Mm-hmm. You could feel one thing and understand one thing and want it so bad that it makes you shake and sweat, and you could still choose to do another thing, right? We can still choose to do the godly thing even if our passions are out of control, right? How does that happen? By using our brain to meditate on the greatness of the Holy One, blessed be He. We spoke before that if you are meditating on the greatness of God, it's going to detract you from sin, because you're not going to want to be separated from this greatness which you are now realizing, right? And any sin, no matter how small, separates you infinitely from the Holy One, blessed be He, at least for the time that you're sinning it, until you do teshuvah. Mm-hmm. So, that is to say, I'll just read this again, that is to say, to rule the heart by means of meditation in the mind on the greatness of the Holy One, blessed be He, whereby his understanding will create a spirit of knowledge and fear of Hashem in his mind to make him turn away from evil, which is condemned by the Torah. And there's a beautiful line there. How do we know what's evil and what's good? Is it what society says is evil and good?
Oh, God help us.
Society accepts homosexuality now. Is that good now? Oh, careful with our mic there. It's what God says is right and is wrong, and what's moral and just and what's the opposite, because God doesn't change, whereas humanity and cultural norms change on a daily basis, right? That which was in style a while ago is not anymore, and then it will be later, and all of these other confusing concepts. There we go. Hopefully our mic is okay. So society is not our moral compass. God is our moral compass. The Torah is the moral compass. So we are understanding the spirit of knowledge and fear of Hashem that's coming into our mind to make us turn away from the evil which is condemned by the Torah. Right? The Torah says that homosexuality is bad. Don't do that. I know you may want it really bad, but still don't do it. Or by the rabbis, right? The rabbis give us injunctions up above and beyond and on top of the Torah. And these are called rabbinic hedges, right? To keep us from sinning.
Part of the oral Torah.
And this is right from the oral law. Right, exactly right. So if God says don't go off the cliff because you could die, the rabbis put us a little fence next to the cliff and says, well, don't even go this far, right?
Don't go near that edge.
Just don't even go near it, because it's human nature to push the button, right?
Samson.
Yeah. Or even a minor rabbinic prohibition, chas v'sholom, God forbid, at the same time arousing, right? So you're fearing God and you're meditating about God and you're afraid to separate from Him. And at the same time, you're meditating on about and arousing a love of God in your heart, in the right part of your heart, the part with less blood, with a fervor and a desire to cleave to Him through the fulfillment of the precepts, the mitzvot, of the Torah and of the rabbis through the study of Torah, Keneged Kulam, which is equivalent to them all. Right? This is what we've described up to now. Furthermore, one must know an additional important principle in the service of the Beinanim. And this is that important principle we had mentioned earlier. This is that even if the capacity of one's intellect and the spirit of one's understanding do not attain the level of producing a revealed love for God in one's heart, to make it glow like burning coals with a great desire and a yearning and a heartfelt passion to cleave to Him, to cleave to God, but the love is hidden. This is the Alter Rebbe's contribution. You may not feel this passionate, burning love for God in your heart. All you have is this intellectual understanding. However, this love, there is a love that's hidden within one's brain and in the recesses of one's heart. This is hidden within the godly soul, right, as an inheritance from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's the whole next section. We're going to be talking about this hidden love. We'll skip the note for right now. That is to say, the heart comprehends with the spirit of wisdom and understanding in the brain the greatness of the Holy One, the Ein Sof, the Infinite One, blessed be He, in relation to whom all else has absolutely no reality, for which reason it is due unto Him, Yisbarach, blessed be He, that the soul of every living creature should yearn for Him, for God, and to cleave and to be absorbed into His light. Likewise, it is fitting for the nefesh, the soul, and the ruach, the spirit within him, to languish for Him, for God, with a fervent desire to emerge from their sheath, which is in the body, in order to cleave to God, except that they dwell perforce in the body and are bound up in it, like deserted wives. The concept here in the Torah is if your husband goes away on a long sea voyage or something along those lines, and he doesn't come back, and you don't know what happened, but you didn't hear that he died, and he never came back. So this person's like a living widow, a deserted wife. She can't remarry, and what if the husband comes home the next day, right? But her husband never gave her a divorce, so she has no way. She's stuck, right? This is a bad situation, and this is like what it is for the soul of the Beinani. And no thought of theirs can grasp Him, God, at all, except when it grasps and is vested in the Torah and its mitzvot, as in the example of embracing the king above. Remember when we said embracing the king, even if he had 7 robes on, you're still hugging the king. The robes are insignificant. Therefore, it is proper for them to embrace Him, God, with their whole heart, soul, and might. This is Shema, which means the fulfillment of the 613 mitzvot in your actions, in your speech, and in your thought, the last being comprehension and knowledge of the Torah, as has been explained above. What did we just say? Long paragraph. Lots of words. What's it mean?
Torah and mitzvah.
Torah and mitzvah. Torah points right? Let's go a little bit deeper. So we said that the Beinani here, I'm flipping back, the Beinani has a intellectual understanding that God's great, right? The Beinani is not an idiot, right? He knows that God is good and He's great and that God loves him and that he should love God back. However, but what's the problem with the Beinani? What has the Beinani mastered? What has the Beinani not mastered?
He's not
His
mastered
godly
all
soul.
of his attributes, the soul powers.
He has not mastered any of his soul powers, the Beinani, right?
Well,
not even close, not even started.
you say any, but when we break them down and look at them, we know that in God it's all one. But
Well, yeah.
there's 10 attributes. I mean, would it be right to say he hasn't mastered any?
That's the difference between a Beinani and a Tzaddik. What's the difference between a 1% Tzaddik and a 100% Tzaddik? The 1% has started to master his soul powers. The 100% mastered them all. Perfect.
Okay.
We have
The
a chart.
Beinoni hasn't, right, wherever
And
Wherever
if
it's
he's
at.
mastered one, he's at 10%.
Well, okay. That's true. So let's say he only mastered a piece of one, right?
Okay.
That would be he's a tzaddik, she'ein a gomer, an incomplete, an imperfect tzaddik, right? The Beinoni, on the other hand, hasn't mastered his soul powers at all. So that's exactly what the Alter Rebbe is saying here. We're just taking another look at it. The Beinoni has mastered his garments, but he hasn't mastered his soul powers. What does that mean? His intellect, what he understands, and his emotion, what he feels, is still running wild. However, he toes the line. He doesn't sin.
He reins him back in.
He reins it in.
He battles them.
Right. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, this love, this revealed
See,
fire,
when you say running wild, it almost sounds like they've taken control of the little city.
but it hasn't because he's a
They
Beinoni.
haven't, right.
If they have, if he slipped in any of the garments, he's
large
now a
and in
Russian.
charge.
Right? Exactly. So, the Alter Rebbe's contribution here, famous contribution, is that even though the Beinoni doesn't have this revealed passionate love for God with the burning coals, right? He's not shaking and sweating for God. He's shaking and sweating for whatever else he wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some earthly passion, some natural desire. However, this intellectual appreciation of God, this love and this fear that exists in his mind, is strong enough to control his heart. It's the same thing we've said before. And this, as we're going to see a little bit later, God considers as actual love and fear. So we're going to just go back. We're on page 68. And we're going to go look at the note, which we skipped. The note is a little bit on the Kabbalistic end of the spectrum, so bear with us here. The question that we're asking...
So is the Tanya.
So is the Tanya. This is right in your face. The question the Alter Rebbe is asking and answering with the note here is, how come? Why is this Beinoni able to get it up here but not here, right? Mm-hmm. Why is he able to not have this revealed love and fear of God, right? Why isn't he dancing like David danced, right? So let's read the note. The note says, the reason for this is that the vitality of this person's intellect, what do we mean vitality?
Where's the note at?
The life.
In the middle, on the right column on page 68. We had skipped it.
Okay. Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. I was going to actually go back and ask you a comment on the Ibur.
Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and comment. So, the vitality of this person's intellect, when we say vitality, we mean spiritual source. Stuff that's here on earth isn't here on its own volition. Everything comes from God. So, if it comes from God, it's got to have a spiritual root somewhere. This is the vitality that we're talking about. So, the reason for this is that the vitality of this person's intellect and his nefesh, ruach, and neshama is derived from the so-called ibur, the gestation and concealment within the supernal understanding, bina, and not from the quality of birth and revelation. And this should be enough for students of Kabbalah. If anybody knows a little bit of Kabbalah, you should probably be getting this by now. So, we're saying that certain people...
There's mud.
We said a couple chapters back that everybody has a root in their soul in somewhere in the spiritual heavens, right? Their root could be more earthly based, so it could come from a Malchut type of area, or it could be more celestial based, like Moshe Rabbeinu was rooted in Chochmah of Atzilut, right? Mm-hmm. So we say that there are 4 different worlds, right? There's our world, which is Asiya. Is it a good time to draw this? All right.
Uh-oh.
Well, I brought my handy-dandy chart here. Thank you, Bob, for the sketch pad. And let's just go ahead and draw these 4 worlds really quick. Okay.
We got charts.
From top?
From the top down, it's Atzilut,
Beria,
Bria,
Yetzirah.
Yetzirah,
And I know you know these without me telling you. And Asiya.
and Asiya.
The world of emanation,
Innumerable
the
chambers.
world of creation, the world of formation, and the world of action.
Yeah, we should probably translate, huh? All right. World of emanation.
That kind of shows you the flow down, like of how this world came to be.
And then our world, which is action. So, without going crazy off the walls with this. Hopefully you guys can see this on the camera here. Does that work? Mm-hmm. We have our top world, right? Well, let's start from our perspective. We're down here in Asiya. As we said last week, Earth is the lowest world, right? The world of Asiya is the world of action. It's the only place where physical reality actually exists, and two things can't take up the same space. Okay? This is the world of action. What are we judged here in this world? We're judged on what we do, right? You're not necessarily, you can't be prosecuted in a court of law because of something you thought, right? One world above us is the world of Yetzirah. Yetzirah is where the angels are. It's where the lower Garden of Eden is. It's where souls go when they pass, if they serve God in this way that enables them to tremendous love. Yep, the written Torah is down here. Oh, and there's a spiritual aspect to Asiya as well. I don't want to get lost in the
didn't want to get it wrong.
Nope, you're right on your chart. Okay. See, we used these charts last year, so we have a lot of notes and stuff from. Then we're going to fill this in. So Asiya, the world of action. There's a spiritual component here as well, right? There are spirits here. Angels are among us here as well, but we can't see them. But the main source of the angels is the world of Yetzirah.
And so you go here when you pass.
If you serve God with an innate love and fear, and we're going to talk about that in detail.
Actually, my note on that, on Asiya, says the demons exist in this world.
Oh, but good ones too. I mean, angels, not just bad guys. The next world up from Yetzirah. The Yetzirah, again, is the lower Garden of Eden. Berea, or contains the lower Garden of Eden. Berea is the third world from our perspective going up. Berea is the world of creation. This is the world where the great tzaddikim live, your Abrahams and your Moseses and all these great people. Angels can come close to this place, but they can't really enter. It's a little bit more intimate between them and God. And this is where you go when you pass, before Mashiach returns. If you serve God with a revealed intellectual love and fear, and we're going to talk about that. And then the world above that is Atzilut. Atzilut is very close, if I could use that word, to God. Atzilut is not even creation yet. It's just an emanation, the world of emanation of God.
Yeshua's seat.
Right? So in Atzilut, we say everything there is God, right? Everything in Atzilut is one with God, right? The lights are one, the energies are one with God there. The vessels are one with God there. Everything is godly there. And we are given ability to transport ourselves between these levels. We get transported through these levels at various different times, which we will talk about. So, if you are looking for a root of your soul, right, each one of these places has within it the 10 attributes, right? Chochmah, Bina, Dat, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. And if maybe I could borrow somebody else's chart here for a second.
Mine's a little scribbly. Bob's is probably a little bit more.
That's fine.
Nice,
hopefully it's not too shiny. You could see here, again, we had lots of notes. On the side here, we have all the 10 sphirot in each world, right? So you could be rooted, like Moshe Rabbeinu, let's say, was rooted in Chochmah of Atzilut, right? Way up here at the top. Or you could be rooted in, let's say, Chesed of Asiya, right? Which is a lot lower. It's a lot more revealed. So if you live, thank you, Bob. If the root of your soul is from a place, and this is what we're saying here, Ibur, not a place of birth where it's revealed, right? It's in a state of pregnancy. When you see a woman who's pregnant, you could see that there's a baby. You can't see the baby. You can see that there's gonna be a baby, right? It's not yet revealed. And that's what we're talking about here. So if your soul is rooted in a place on high, that comes from a place, your nefesh, ruach, and neshama, a place where it's not quite revealed, passionate love, then this person is going to be unable to develop and to emote a passionate, fiery fear or love for God. It's not going to happen. You might be able to get it up here, but you're going to have to skip to be able to go down to the action place. So the revealed emotions will not be with this individual. That's what the note says. Questions on that?
It's not a good deal.
Let's not get... It's what it is. It's what it is. And it's because it's out of this person's control that the Alter Rebbe is going on to say what he's about to say. So, without getting too far lost in the cosmos here, let me take a sip. All right. Now we're continuing on the second paragraph in the left column of page 70. Consequently, when the Beinoni ponders this subject in the recesses of his heart and mind's understanding, with the unanimity of mouth and heart, in that he upholds by word of mouth that which has been resolved in the understanding of his heart and his mind, namely to direct his desire toward the divine Torah, meditating on it all day, in oral study, right? When you study the Torah, much better when you study that you should speak it out loud. To read inside your head when you're studying Torah is not as good as if you say the words out loud, even if it's just one person alone. So he's meditating on the Torah all day and all night in oral study, while his hands and other bodily organs are carrying out the mitzvot, the commandments, in accordance with the revolution of his heart and his mind's understanding, right? The woman's hands are giving the challah. The man's arm is wrapped in tefillin, etc., etc. We should all be giving tzedakah. In accordance with the revolution of his heart and mind's understanding, then this understanding, which is clothed in the act, in the speech, and in the thought of Torah and its mitzvot, and remember we said before, we had, when we were talking about the garments of the godly soul are Torah and mitzvot. Torah and mitzvot are one with God. So they're actually, the garments themselves are actually greater than our souls at that point, right? So, okay, this person doesn't necessarily have a revealed, passionate, fiery love and fear for God. However, he's getting the job done, right? That's what the Alter Rebbe is saying here. It's really in his acts, in his speech, in his thoughts, and they're all Torah and mitzvot, providing for them, the Torah and the mitzvot, as it were, intelligence and vitality and wings, wherewith to soar on high. Love and fear are called kavana. Kavana means intention, right? Where are your heart and mind when you're praying or when you're doing anything for God? And they're also called wings, right? If your mitzvah, or if your Torah study, has wings, then it can soar up high, right? A bird without wings is kosher, you can eat it. It can live as long as a bird can live, right? However, if a bird doesn't have wings, then it can't fly, right? So the mitzvah or the Torah study would be stuck down here and not raised up.
Bird without wings is kosher.
Right. If there's an animal that's hurt to a point where it can no longer live for 12 months,
is an ostrich?
It's not kosher.
Ostrich kosher?
Ostriches aren't kosher, no.
Okay, this is what I was...
If there's an injury to an animal so that it can't live for 12 months, then that animal's no longer kosher. It's called treif. It's torn. It's not going to survive. But a bird without wings can live its whole life, right?
Just can't fly.
It just can't fly.
Can't really fulfill its purpose.
Right. So the mitzvot that you do and the Torah that you study without wings are kosher. They're here. They're living, okay? But they're not ascending. They're not flying to the celestial heights where they were designed to go, right? Rabbi Gordon told an interesting story about a group of German Jews the Baal Shem Tov once visited. And he had said that Baal Shem Tov comes in, he says, "This place is filled with prayers, letters of prayer." And they're thinking, "Oh, this is very good, thank you so much, Rabbi, And he's like, "It wasn't a compliment."
They're bouncing off the ceiling.
Yeah, it means they didn't get higher than the ceiling. They're stuck down here. There's no kavana, right? There's no love and there's no fear to allow them to soar up in the celestial heights. So that's not great. In the same, it is the same as if he practiced them. So let me just back up, because this is the punchline here. We say that this Beinoni, he doesn't have a revealed love and fear for God. What is the Beinoni love and fear? Give me an example. We said the Beinoni hasn't mastered his soul powers, and he's tempted like the rush is tempted. So what does he want? He wants food, right? Or whatever. He wants a new boat.
Or a new car.
Or he thinks about them.
That's what he wants, right? He's not dwelling on them in his thoughts, but that's his first go-to, right? So, even though this holy person doesn't have an actual realized love and fear for God, he does have an intellectual. He understands he should love God. He understands that he should fear God. He understands it in his heart even, enough so that he's actually doing the mitzvahs. Okay, this is a pretty great guy, right? This is a holy service of God. Oh, yeah, now I lost my place. So keep that in your brain while I find my place.
Inasmuch.
Is that right?
I think.
Oh, no.
No?
Up on the top, it is the same. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
he didn't, he's not feeling passionate love for God. He's not feeling passionate fear for God. He is just getting the job done. He understands he should love. He understands he should fear. It is the same as if he practiced them with real fear and with real love as revealed in his heart, with a desire, a fervor, a passion, shaking and sweating, that are felt in his heart and his soul, thirsting for God by reason of the glowing embers of love in his heart, as is mentioned above, right? God considers it as if he's really emotionally engaged. But we just said he's not, right? Inasmuch as it is this understanding in his brain and in his heart's recesses, the smaller parts of his heart, that is instrumental in leading him and engaging in them, and had he not so delved in it, he would not have occupied himself with them at all, but only with his physical needs alone, right? This is an individual who is naturally craving the stuff that natural people crave, right? He wants money, he wants power, he wants whatever, food, seconds. However, he learned Torah, and now he's bypassing that desire, and he's actually doing mitzvot, right? And even if he is naturally disposed, in the parentheses here, even if he's naturally disposed to be an assiduous student, like the type of Beinanu we said before, right? The one who isn't so driven, or isn't battling so hard, rather. Nevertheless, he would naturally love his body more. A regular person is going to, if they don't know Torah, they're just going to serve themselves. Right?
That's the natural inclination.
That's the natural inclination. If there's one piece of cake left, that's right. We should be trying and striving to, right? The natural body says if there's one piece of cake left, I want that cake, and if you get it, I don't have it, right? And that's a problem.
That's the problem. Now we got a problem.
7 layers.
Yeah, every layer, right? So do we understand the concept in the first part here? We got one part left to go, where we're just going to repeat the thing and give it a little bit more koyach here. Okay. Someone give me a quick recap of what we've studied so far, so I know we didn't lose you with the Kabbalistic stuff.
We're speaking of the hidden love. That love that is certainly by way of his meditation on the greatness of God, exists greatly in his understanding.
Right, but not revealed in his heart.
Yeah,
he doesn't feel it, right? Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to serve God. He wants a nap, right?
I think it's the difference is the kind of person who just has a baseline of
right?
You know that not just that you know that God and you're a believer and all that, but it's like what's the right thing to do. It's always in front of you. You're always trying to meet that level and trying to not go beyond it. You know that there's things that you're supposed to be doing. You know why you do them. And that's your heart. You've made that decision.
Right.
It's like when you try to change a habit or something, you put sticky notes everywhere going, I'm remembering why I'm doing this
right.
until it becomes a habit. That same exact concept it's the type of person.
And until then, you're struggling. You're waiting.
Yeah, but every time, every time you come to hit up against it, that decision that you've made, that knowledge calms it down and goes, oh yes, I remember. Mm-hmm. It's that. I think it's that. I look at it like that. It's that kind of
I don't think that's a bad understanding. I think you're right. What we've learned so far is that even though the Beinani has it up here, right? He still understands things not in the perfect way. He still feels things not in the perfect way. He wants and he desires natural human stuff. And he fights with that desire, right? Mm-hmm. But he still toes the line. He does the mitzvahs. What does this mean? It means that even though the love isn't revealed in his heart, he doesn't want to serve God. He doesn't wake up wanting to serve God. He wakes up wanting something to eat. Mm-hmm. Still, he gets the mitzvot done. We're skipping that level and going from intellect to the practical.
Right. So it doesn't, there's lots of different people, but as long as they all have that same, then it counts.
But it also indicated that there was a capacity that each individual has, and some aren't able to fully fan that into the fervent.
It's just not going to happen.
Heart.
They're not going to wake up and want to serve God. they can tell themselves, mind over matter, this is what I know that I want to do, even though I don't feel like I want to do this. This is what I know I should do, and I do it, like he said. The Alter Rebbe's contribution here, this famous contribution, is that he's saying that God considers that as real, actual love and fear. But we just said he doesn't have actual love and fear. It's not revealed. He wants other things. But because he realizes that and he does the deed anyways, God says, this is love, this is fear. These are wings. I'm going to let his Torah and his study and his mitzvot observance, I'm going to let them fly up to me, to my throne, says God. Because I know that this guy is doing the best that he could do because he can't actually realize and actualize that love and fear. Right?
And here is fulfilled that the verse that says God looks not as man looks, but he looks at the heart.
Absolutely true. He knows everything that's going on, right? So that's good. That's what we're up to so far, and the Alter Rebbe is going to prove it with a verse. Let's see here. From Kedushin, Talmud, page 40, side A. Our sages of blessed memory hinted at this when they said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be he unites a good thought to the deed. Typically, the Peshat, what we're explaining here, there's an individual who wants to do a mitzvah. Give me an example. Charity. Okay, he wants to give charity. He writes a check for $1 million. And just as he's writing the check, he gets a phone call. Oh, something crashed in the business. This is terrible. Or you need to pay all this money for your car or something. And now he doesn't have the funds to write the check. And he's trying to write the check, but he can't now because he doesn't have the money to be able to do it. This is where the sages say the Holy One, blessed be God, he's going to connect the good thought to the action. Somehow that check is going to get written by somebody, and it's going to end up where you wanted it to go. Baruch Hashem. That's a miracle, right? That's pretty cool. The Alter Rebbe is going to use this, and he's explaining that this is actually how God considers the concealed love and fear in this person, actual love and fear, because he's actually connecting it to the deed, right? So, okay, he had to skip a step. God says, I'll plug in the step. This isn't a problem. Because he can't do that revealed bit, right? So one would have expected them to say that the Torah regards the good thought as if it had been put into practice. And I'm just going to read the note down here. As the Talmud continues, even if a man intended to fulfill a commandment but was forcibly prevented, Scripture just described. Right. Scripture ascribes it to him as if he had performed it. That's different than what we just said. We just said God actually will make it happen. But the understanding that's being brought here is if, okay, the person's not going to get the check.
It goes to your account, though. Like you did the deed. Even
right,
though
but God's going to say he really did it.
Right, but it'll count as though you did it because your heart had the kavanah to do it.
But that's more of a Peshat because then it says the explanation, however.
Right. So the question is, why the difference in expression? The answer is that each statement conveys a different meaning, right? So, in the Talmud it says, the Holy One, blessed be he unites a good thought to the deed, right? It doesn't say that the Torah considers it as if he did it, even though that person's not going to get paid. The Talmud says the person's going to get paid, right? The explanation, however, is that it is the revealed fear and love in the heart that are clothed in the act of the commandments of the mitzvot, giving them vitality to soar on high, like wings of love and fear, as we said before. Inasmuch as the heart is also corporeal, as the other parts of the body, which are the instruments of the action, except that it is internal in their source of vitality. Therefore, it can clothe itself in their act to be their wings, elevating them. Right? This is how God really connects the good thought to the action. It's actually happening for this person. But I didn't have a revealed love and fear of God. God says, so what? You still got it done, right?
Ooh. The next statement is pretty good here.
However, the above-mentioned fear and love that are in the intelligence of the brain, right? That's not revealed in the heart. It's in the intelligence of the brain and in the recesses of the heart. So it's concealed in the heart. It's revealed in the brain. Are of an infinitely higher order than that of action, and they cannot clothe themselves in the performance of mitzvot to become their intelligence and vitality, as it were, to lift them up, to soar upward, were it not for the fact that the Holy One, blessed be HaKadosh Baruch Hu, fuses and unites them together with the action. So, by natural means, this could not have happened. But God allows it to happen, right? Do we need to take a step back? Okay. So the Holy One fuses and unites them together with the action, hence they are called a good thought, for they are not actual awe and love in a revealed state in the heart, but only in the intelligence of the brain and the recesses of the heart, as is mentioned above. So, I suppose it's time for another chart. You guys want another chart?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I love charts.
We will work on you later. So,
actually, it seems like you were going to go back to recap a little bit or something, but if I were to draw out, I
Please.
think what's probably the most important part of that statement
go
to
for it.
understand that the above mentioned fear and love that are in the intelligence of the brain and in the recesses of the heart,
Revealed in the
the
head,
hidden love,
concealed
are
in the heart.
infinitely higher order than of the action itself.
Right, and we're going to study later that everything happens under this 5-step progression. Intellect, chokhmah bina da'at,
Well, it's
emotion,
just like the
chesed
chart.
gevurah
Is
tiferet.
everything is up here, and it comes down to the
Then
code.
your
reality.
thoughts and your words and your actions, right? And this is the chart which I'm going to try to draw here, the chart of the Sephirot, and this hopefully will give us a little bit of an understanding.
This one.
That's the one.
You want an empty one?
Oh, that's okay. I'm just going to draw one. So
Oh.
we
You want
have.
to start with a clean slate?
I will have
Start
one
with
of
a
these color.
Oh, that's very nice. I'll just draw it real quick.
Now you're drawing this one?
Right, the 10 Sefirot. So we've mentioned them several times before. Chokhmah bina da'at, chesed gevurah tiferet, netzach hod yesod, and malchut. We're just going to give you a visual here.
I have two because I couldn't fit all my work in one.
That's okay.
Kind of how I'm a little artistic. But you know that how we look at the ketzer, and and know that really it's really one with or approaches the Ein Sof, and beyond that we can't even imagine. It's like it's way beyond. I've tried to actually picture the tree in that kind of say almost like on a plane. Think of like Star Trek.
You know it was coming, didn't you? We watched Star Trek 8 the other night. It was great.
You watched it the other night?
We did.
Star Wars.
Or Star Wars.
Star
excuse
Wars?
me. Yeah,
All
it was
right.
great.
So we're just going to start really basic here. Hang on a second. Make sure we don't get this all over the place. So this is the intellect part. Remember we said the 10 Sefirot are intellect and emotion? Here's the intellect triangle. It's the bit on this top, right? And it starts off here. Chokhmah, which is wisdom. Wisdom's not a great word for it as we understand it in America. A better word for this might be inspiration. Okay, you get an idea? Spark of an idea, right? A little creativity
The
possibly.
beginning.
Then we have understanding, right? That spark gets developed into an idea. This is development, understanding.
It's like that Gevur or Ibor thing, the gestation.
Right? And then, if all goes well, you got the spark, you developed it, you understood it, then it develops into da'at. Da'at is knowledge, right? So if this was a person, this would be like the right and left hemispheres of the brain, and then the brain stem, which brings it down to the rest of the body, right? Using that metaphor, that parable of birth and pregnancy, well, how does the Bible say that Adam was intimate with Eve and they produced a son? What's the word they use?
Knew.
Adam knew Eve, right?
Which is
Yada et Chava.
the root of Chokhmah.
No.
No?
Da'at.
Oh, da'at.
Right.
Okay, no, knowledge. Okay.
So what happens when these two fuse together? You wind up with da'at, right? Another word for this might be an opinion, right? Somebody told me something. I developed it. I thought about the length and the width and the nuts and the bolts and the calculations, and now I developed it. I thought about it. Now I have a opinion as to the way that things should be. And now, what happens when you have an opinion? It becomes passionate, right? Passionate. Now we get to the next triangle. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough room for all this.
We got big thing.
Excuse me while I scribble here.
You're gonna make it.
You think?
Yeah. Just.
Okay. So, what happens after you understand something? Hopefully that understanding gives birth to emotions, right? So then you have the next triad here, the next triangle. Chesed, which is loving kindness. On the right, Gevura, which is severity, fear, discipline, law. On the left column. And then the center column, the fusion of those two is Tiferet, which is beauty or compassion.
Balance
right?
and harmony.
Balance. Harmony is a great word for Tiferet, absolutely. I only had so much space here, so. So that's the ideal situation here, right? You're going to have a thought, it's going to develop into an emotion, and that's going to influence your thoughts, your speech, and your actions. That's this 5-step progression that we've talked about. Intellect, emotion, now I think about it, now I speak about it, now I end up doing it, right? That's the 5-step progression. So let me just finish this off here. We're not going to talk about this bottom triad too much, but I wouldn't want to leave you hanging.
Netzach, Hod, and Yesod.
Yesod. Be better if I had a whiteboard, right? Maybe next time.
Well, writing vertically is not so easy. You're much more comfortable with the way you're doing it.
That's a good point. All right.
Is there a center connection too? Kind of.
Yeah, there's a lot more connections than I drew on here. But for our purposes here, let's not get too complex. Okay. So first, let's start up at the top.
We're moving in more of a flow chart.
Right. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a little bit easier for you. So, on the top, we have intellect, right? I'm sorry, you can't see that at all.
That's all right. I got it right here.
Oh, that's a good point. On the top, we have Chochmah, Bina, Da'at, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, right? And they are going to, Kabbalistically, Chochmah is called Av, father, and Bina is called Aim, mother, right? Father and mother get together, you have the Da'at, you have the intimacy, right? And that gives birth to children. Who are the children? The 6 emotive attributes, right? We have Chesed, which is love, Gevura, which is fear, like a son and a daughter, right? Tiferet, which is harmony, the compassion. We'll talk about these more later, a lot more later. And then we have Netzach on the right, which is endurance, the concept of victory. Hod on the left, which is the daily grind, it's humility, also called splendor. Those fuse together, and we have Yesod. Yesod means bonding, foundation, friendship. Okay? And then on the very bottom, we have Malchut. Everything gets funneled through Yesod to get to Malchut. Malchut is kingship, dignity, sovereignty, the actualization of the next generation, right? So on the top, the first triad, we have intellect. The middle triad, we have emotion. And the bottom 4, they're also called emotion, but it's more practical, right? It's not raw love or raw fear. It's endurance. I'm trying to get through this. Or it's humility. I'm trying to control myself, right? It's already having a practical application here. So we have intellect, emotion, thought, speech, and deed.
Your upper triad, middle triad,
and the lowest
triad,
4. Right.
Which it's really a triad because everything flows down then.
Right.
For the whole purpose of it, the object.
Is Malchut, that God should make us a king, right? God says you should have dominion over the world, right? Go ahead and rule it. Conquer the world and make it godly. That's our mission, right? Mm-hmm. How many years has it been now? 5,700? Mm-hmm. We're doing good.
Working it.
All right.
Getting there.
So, this is the progression that we were talking about. Now you have a visual, an image of it so that you can see what we're doing here. Excuse me. And this is going to bring us to our note. I'm just going to hold this up while we read the note because I think it's going to be helpful. Thus, it is also written in the Zohar, the primary work of Kabbalah, and Eitz Chaim, written by Chaim Vital, the Rizal's chief student, that tevuna, what is this word tevuna? Intelligence. What we've been saying this whole time, that he gets it in his head, but not in his heart, right? Mm-hmm. This is tevuna. Tevuna is a permutation of bina, right? Bob, does yours have the Hebrew? Here, let me borrow this for a second. Perhaps you'll be able to see here the Hebrew. Bina, tevuna, it's the same word, right? And it says in the Zohar and in Eitz Chaim that this word tevuna has within it the letters Bain Vabat. You guys see that?
Bain Vabat?
Mm-hmm.
Which means?
Son and daughter, right?
Oh, right.
Son and daughter, Bain and Bat. You take the first two letters of tevuna and you turn them around, you have Bat. You take the second and fourth letter of tevuna, you have Ben, which is a son, right? So when Av, who is father, daddy, right, and Aim, who is mother, understanding, get together through Da'at, right, they have intimacy, they produce children. Who are the children? Love, which is Ben, and fear, which is Bat. Right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And again, Gevura means awe, right? Discipline. We're gonna have lots and lots of different words to describe that. Discipline, severity, judgment. That's the Gevura side. So Tevuna has Ben and Bat in it, right? The son and the daughter exist within the father and the mother. Mm-hmm. And if you're one of these souls, like we said a little bit earlier, who's in more of a pregnancy stage and not so much of a revealed stage, you're not going to have this actual revealed children, which is son and daughter, which is love and fear. It's going to be stuck in the pregnancy someplace. You're not going to have it revealed. And God is going to connect that good thought to the deed. Continuing with the note. Tevuna contains the letters of Ben Vabat, Ben Ubat, referring to awe and love. And sometimes it descends to become the intelligence in the feminine principle of Zer Anpin. Zer Anpin means the little faces. It's these 6 emotive attributes, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, as they exist on high. Represented in the letters of the Torah and in the mitzvot. And the initiated will understand what this means. The whole concept of uniting heaven and earth, right? Mm-hmm. When we had said before, now we're going to really bake your noodle if we didn't before. God bless us.
Well, the footnote actually does elaborate on it. The feminine principle is what you're referring to.
Sure. Do you want to go ahead and do that before we...
The feminine principle is to be understood in Kabbalistic terminology in the sense of the recipient of the flow of divine influence.
Give and take. The whole world runs off give and take, right? Where's my fancy-dancy pen? All right. So, of this 10-step progression... Actually, I want that back. Hopefully we don't bleed through.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I skipped the beginning of it because I went down there because of the term Zer Anpin. I wanted to get refreshed on that, and that's the small image, which refers to the midot, the seven divine midot, which are the emotive attributes there.
Right. What is a mida? Midot? What are the midot?
Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod.
Perfect. Thank you. So now, we go back to our original chart, right? We have the 4 worlds, and these are letters of God's name, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, right? That's how you spell God's name. Mm-hmm. So Yud represents Chokhmah. The world of Atzilut is dominated by wisdom. God's inspiration, right? That's where God is emanating from. Hey, the first Hey in God's name represents Bina, understanding. It takes that Yud and it gives it length and width, right? It expands it, it develops it. So the world of Bria is run by intellect. That's why if you die and you go to heaven and you serve God with an intellectual love and fear, like this nice Bainani here, in a revealed sense, you'll go to the higher heaven like Moshe and Abraham Avinu. And this is the higher Garden of Eden. Then the next letter of God's name is Vav. Vav stands for the Midot. Vav has a numerical value of 6, right? Mm-hmm. Which 6 are we talking about? Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Maybe we'll hold this up next to it. So that's the 6 in Yetzirah. And this is the realm of emotion. Fear of God, awe of God, love of God. This is why this is where the angels are, right? Because angels are unidimensional, emotional beings. They know how to fear, or they know how to love, and that's it. And then the last He is Malchut, kingship, which is the actual physical world that we live in, and a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And this is why in our world, what's most important? Accepting the yoke of heaven, right? Understanding God is king and doing what he says. That's the basic down here. So these 10 spheres are...
doing the mitzvah.
I'm sorry, I missed some of that.
Simply, in other words, doing the mitzvah.
Just doing it, right? Just do it, right? Mm-hmm. God says, do it. He's the king. You do it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, again, we said that these 10 spheres exist in their entirety, all 10 of them in each world, right? So there's 10 in Atzilut, all 10 in Bria, all 10 in Yetzirah. However, each one of those worlds is dominated by a specific aspect. And let's take our bottom world, the Asiya here, for example. What is our first recognition of God? Baruch atah Hashem, blessed are you, God, Elokeinu, our God, Melech HaOlam, King of the universe, right? Mm-hmm. We say God is king, and therefore he does, and we're afraid of him, and we love him because he gives us good stuff, and that's the basic, right? That's the foundation.
That's the beginning.
If you go a world up, you recognize God's love and fear way more. If you go a world up, you recognize God's understanding way more. If you go up to the world of Atzilut, there you go, you understand God's wisdom so much more. And in truth, God is much higher than all of this. But this is the breakdown. This is the structure. Mm-hmm. And that's what we were saying in both of our notes. Hopefully we didn't lose you too much there. But hopefully it helped a little bit. So let's finish off the chapter here.
Yeah, when you get into a lot of Kabbalistic terminology and everything, it can get muddled.
Right, and that's not what we want to do. So what we were saying, let's just recap, I guess, a little bit. The Beinoni, good guy. He wants to sin. He thinks, or not thinks.
He doesn't want to sin.
He wants to. He wants
he doesn't want to. The thought will come to him, but he masters it.
Right. He's tempted by the same stuff everybody's tempted with. Right. However, he doesn't act on it.
He wages war with his animal soul, and he wins.
With powers, the soul powers.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, those attributes.
Right. Those attributes for him are screaming love of, I want a new boat, right? Fear of an overdraft fee, right?
Right.
The basic stuff that we do. He's not passionately, rapturously in love with God in a revealed way, or fearing God in a revealed way. It's concealed. It's hidden, right? So for this individual, even though he doesn't have this revealed love and fear, he does have it intellectually, and it's so powerful in his mind because he's meditated on it that it actually controls. He can use it to control his actions, his words, and his thoughts. So he's not sinning. In fact, he's doing all the mitzvahs. And God says, this guy doesn't have love and fear? Are you kidding me? Look at him. He did it. He did it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where we've been up to now. How does all that work Kabbalistically? Refer to the charts. But the Holy One, blessed be He, produces this coalescence. He brings it together in order to elevate the performance of these mitzvot and the study of Torah, right? Before, this guy didn't have love and fear wings that let his Torah study and his mitzvot observers soar on high. God made that happen. Let's see. Hold on, blessed he produces this coalescence in order to elevate the performance of his mitzvot, this guy's mitzvot, and the study of Torah, his study of Torah, which are carried out under the influence of the said good thought, right? It wasn't emotion that caused this. It was intellect that caused this. And therefore God says, let's bridge the gap for the guy. Into the world of Bria. Do we need into the world of Bria. So let's just start again.
The world of understanding, the higher Garden of Eden.
Right. That's where the higher Garden of Eden is. The Holy One, blessed be He, produces this coalescence to make his mitzvot and the Torah of this guy soar up into the world of Bria. If he didn't have the love and fear, where would the mitzvot and the Torah study end up? On the roof of the shul. Right? Way down here in Asiya. Right. However, God makes it soar all the way up here, even though he didn't have revealed love and fear. This guy never had revealed love and fear. He wanted to eat. He wanted to sleep. He didn't want to serve God, but he did it. And even though he did it without revealed love and fear, God accredits it to him as if it were, and hence the mitzvot can soar, and the Torah study can soar. Let's see, into the world of Bria, the abode to which the Torah and the mitzvot that are performed through intelligent awe and love, which are truly revealed in the heart. But even without this, they still rise to the world of Yetzirah. Okay, so let's say you thought about God and meditated about God enough so that you actually developed a real love and fear for him, a real revealed one. Then it's automatically going to go up to Bria, right? Because you have the love and fear wings. Excuse me. Let's say you don't. Now God's going to cause it to ascend to the world of Yetzirah, one world lower, but he's still going to cause it to ascend higher than where it was stuck down here. By means of natural love and fear. What do we mean natural love and fear? The part of love and fear that are hidden within the heart, latent in the heart, dormant within the heart of all Jews from birth, as will be explained later. This is the hidden love and fear, and that's our next section, which we're going to tackle from chapters 18 to, 25 here. Okay, and that's the end of chapter 16. So let me just recap one more time really quick. The Beinoni wants and desires and loves and fears regular, natural people stuff, right? However, he forces himself to control his actions, his words, and his thoughts, to actually do the mitzvot and to stay away from sin. And because even though he doesn't feel it, he did it, God's going to make those love and fear elevate into the heavens. The lower heavens, okay, but the heavens. Whereas if he didn't have any intellectual knowledge of what he was doing, he was just doing the mitzvah by rote. He knows that, Bubby always said make a bracha before you eat, and I really don't know who I'm brachaing to, right? Then those mitzvahs are going to stay down here. He's thinking about totally other stuff. However...
I mean, Bubby says that you just do it. That's the deal.
I mean, I've learned that much at least.
I mean, come on.
But let's say he does think about God while he's doing these things. He's not burning on fire for love of God. I mean, it's just not there. But he's thinking about God. God will raise it up, right? Let's say he's thinking about God and he's developing a real revealed love and fear of God, then that can soar even higher. Does that make sense? Okay, that's what we said in chapter 16.
Amen.
So God connects the good thought to the deed. And practically speaking, that means that our Torah that we study here and our mitzvot that we perform every day actually ascend into the heavens, and God can cherish it there, right? In a permanent sense. And that's a miracle, because otherwise it wouldn't have happened naturally, normally, right? Thoughts and questions on chapter 16. I know we touched on a lot of stuff.
Good.
Questions on anything, and our viewers online, if you have questions on anything, please email us or make a comment in the section below the video here. We'd be happy to answer you with anything that you might have. I know we covered some deeper stuff tonight. What do we think?
Good.
Can we can somebody
Use
give
our
me
words?
yes, can we use our words?
Can we
Can
use
somebody
our
give me a quick
words?
description as to what we studied tonight?
Well, it's very interesting
That's a one or
to
three
think,
liner.
to see that the end result, because you really sometimes can't control the kind of person that you are. So you might be intellectual, you do it, but yet you're not one of those people that are very passionate or whatever. Your end result, so you have three different people, each one is a different kind of person, but they reach the same goal in their individuality, because what they're lacking, Yah makes happen.
Right, he fills the gap for us, right?
Right. I think that's very good. So you don't have to, not everybody is the same. So
right. Let's say he's got the intellect okay, right?
Right.
Enough so that he's actually thinking about God, and then it skips right down here to action. And God will just bridge the gap for him.
Right.
You know?
That's fabulous, right?
That is fabulous. It's miraculous, even. And that's pretty good, the way that you describe that, because it touches on a concept we spoke about a week or so ago, the concept of truth. What is real truth, If a preschooler comes home and says that Purim is about, Mordecai and Esther saved the people, and now we eat hamantashen. Is that any true, or is that not true?
It's true.
It's absolutely true, right? It's not the same truth you would get from a college student. Right. You should hope.
You better not.
Right. Otherwise, the tuition dollars were maybe not well spent.
You're a little bit wasted.
Right. Maybe you're doing something else during school.
That's not a 500-word paper.
No, it's certainly not. Right. So, truth is relative in the sense that if all I can see about truth is this much, it's still true. But if I could see a lot more, that's the same truth. It's just I can see more of it. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. There is a love and a fear that's hidden within us And we're going to talk about that hidden love. We're going to hit it hard. But right now, just know it's there. And it's an inheritance from the patriarchs. And it's in the soul of every Jew.
That's after 17. The next section is
18 through 25, yeah.
25. The next section, 17, is the soul of Tanya.
Oh, yeah? You have a note from previous years?
I don't know.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
So,
love Tanya.
This hidden love that's within you, it's enough to actually produce mitzvot. And this, if I can give you a little sneak peek of 17, since we just touched on it anyways, we're going to hit the verse we started Tanya with. What's that verse again?
It is near to you to do the whole, for it is exceedingly near to you in your mouth and in your heart to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
to explain clearly how it is exceedingly near in a lengthy and short way, with the aid of the Holy One, blessed be He.
Mm-hmm.
Deuteronomy 30:14.
We're going to explain that verse next week. We'll hit it again in Tanya as well, but we're going to hit it pretty hard next time. And we're going to explain this thing is very near to you. Torah and mitzvah is very close to you in your mouth, okay, in your heart, that you should do it. Because that doesn't really go, that goes against our, everything we've been saying here pretty much, right? We say that the normal people, we love food and we love a nice car.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
We don't passionately love God. So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, what does that mean? It doesn't say, beficha in your mouth, ubeshavcha, and in your thoughts, lasota, that you should do it. It says in your heart, right? What does that mean? In our heart. And that's this hidden love. The hidden love is there enough to actually get us to be able to do the mitzvah.
Take the bullet.
Maybe it's not revealed. It's enough to get you to do the mitzvah. You can actually really do it. And if you do this over and over and over again, if you meditate about God and think about God, how great He is, you try to love Him, you try to be in awe of Him, you try to fear Him, right? And then you actually do the mitzvahs. By doing that long enough, that's the long, shorter way. You can actually end up changing your soul powers themselves, your intellect and your emotion themselves, to be able to actually start changing what you desire. And that love can become real. That fear can become actualized. And that's the long, shorter way. And that's something everybody can do, right? To the extent that they're able. And maybe we're starting at different places, right? Some people, it's very easy for them to be studious and to think about the right things. Other people, it's more of a challenge. But it doesn't change the fact that everybody can be a Beinoni. Everybody can do it. Everybody can control their thoughts and their words and their actions simply by meditating on God's greatness, mind over matter, not wanting to be separated from Him, chas v'sholom, right? So that's 16.
Good.
Thoughts on that?
Good.
Trying to go for another chapter tonight, or do you want to close in prayer?
I'd say
Well,
we're going to end up to be about 10 o'clock.
Just now, real.
It's got a couple sections.
It's not too long, but it's pretty deep.
I wouldn't want to cheat it out myself.
Enough said. That's totally fine. So, who would like to close us in prayer?
Did you open us, or did you open us? You did.
I could if you like.
I could if you like.
Rabbona Shalom, you are awesome. Your Torah is awesome. Your mystical secrets are awesome, and we are truly in awe of everything that you are and everything that you do. Please help us to understand you. Please be with us and grant us da'at, knowledge, that we should not only understand these things that you're telling us about, that your sages and your prophets and your rabbis have written about, but that we should actually have this process of da'at to internalize it and actually to develop real love and fear of you, so powerful and so strong that other people should see it and be jealous of it, not for a negative sense, but that they too should learn to love you and fear you, so that the entire world can develop a God consciousness, which will usher in Mashiach and lead to world peace. And we thank you for that, Abba. Please be with us in the rest of our studies and on the way home. And thank you again for everything that you are and everything that you've taught us. We love you. We thank you. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach.
Amen.
I love Tanya because I always feel like I'm climbing up to heaven, getting some knowledge,
A little drip of dew.
Some manna, and then
coming
to be able to
well,
then to be able to bring it back down to live your life, to incorporate it into your life, to make. I think it's easier to live your life, especially a good life, if you know. For me, if I know why I do what I do and how the pieces work, it's very easy for me to just do it.
Revealed,
it's when you don't know, then you're like, well, why would I do
ocean,
that? Right. It's very scattered. It's very chaotic. But if you know, because you can see clearly, this is what I'm supposed to do. I have direction. It shows you how to do it. That's easy peasy.
And that's exactly what the Alter Rebbe's done for us so far. He tells us who we are, who God is, what the world is, what God wants from us, how
you're here,
it's
what
going to be
your
a
purpose
fight,
is. Yes.
and how we can really actually do it.
But don't you
want to
think?
grab our camera whenever you're ready?
Sure.
Don't you think
Which
that
is
makes?
why this became the first book of Tanya.
Right.
That's right. Even though there was a little bit of debate there, when we'll get to it, I guess.
Doesn't that?
Shalom. Join us next week.
Yes.
Shalom, shalom.